Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Worth It Then, Worth It Now, a segment that we do on this channel where we revisit games of yesteryear, at least 12 months old or older. Basically, it serves as an opportunity for me to shout out Scarlett's favourites, games that I think deserve a bit more recognition, and while they're not ultra contemporary, it's something I try and line up with a sale. So today we're having a look at Hard West. This one's pretty old actually, 10 years now I suppose, but it's a old favourite of mine. I'm a really big fan of it, jank and all. It's a really fun, kind of gritty Old West, but you know when they do sort of horror, I guess, West, there's a component of it, like if you were to say who is the main character of this game, you could probably argue that it's the devil, the man in black. He keeps rocking up and interfering with these little vignette stories that are tied together that have a little bit of occasional character crossover and a little bit of sequel in them as well. But yeah, it's really tough to lock down who the main character really is. You could probably argue that the world that it's set in is, in a way, the character. So it's very narratively focused. These, like I said, vignettes, miniature campaigns, they will have their own hook to them. So like me just dropping back in to do B-roll, I played some prologue and the first campaign essentially, which carries on from the prologue, and I don't want to spoil it, but just lightly, it's about a father and son stuck along the Oregon Trail. They turn their hand to mining. And so there's a sort of text-based choose-your-own-adventure mining mini-game, how deep you want to mine, trying to level up the skills, get an investment. Through the course of all this, you meet, a neighbor, Florence, and fall in love as the young dude, and then she gets wrapped up in your adventure. There's local bandits strong-arming you to the point where you have to push back. Prison breaks, capture, deals with the devil, and all of this plays out as one little campaign, and there's a whole bunch of them that tie together. And it deals with some pretty dark themes, but it doesn't overdo it either. And all of this is, wrapped up with a gameplay loop, sort of like XCOM. Like, it is a turn-based tactics type game. It's less about percentage to hit, so you don't really get the 95% chance to hit. You have this system called luck, and it's probably worth just doing a quick tangent here. This is developed by Creative Forge Games under the publisher Good Shepherd Entertainment, and you could probably go down a rabbit hole there because Creative Forge obviously made enough money to try their hand at publishing. To be honest, I don't really love a lot of what they're publishing nowadays. It's kind of a bit lower tier in my experience. But there was this short window in time where the two of them worked together. They also made a game called Phantom Doctrine, very similar to this, a pseudo-spiritual sequel, but that's more like 70s, 80s spy thriller, Cold War sort of thing. So a turn-based James Bond-ish game, and it's really good leading into that espionage. So for a moment in time, they were an absolute pairing. It would seem Good Shepherd probably owns the rights to Hard West, so they actually got Hard West 2 to come out in a sequel form, and it is very different. It's not bad at all. It's a little bit more action run and gun. It's a lot more consumable from what you would probably say a mainstream perspective, and it is in that weird West sort of setting. But I still really enjoy the kind of rough-edged, darker jank of Hard West 1. But yeah, worth mentioning as an aside. Where were we? The luck system. It's an answer to people complaining about 95% chance to hit in things like XCOM. It's a bit of a meme. And the reason I mentioned Phantom Doctrine is they have something similar in that, I believe. But the idea is that you have a luck bar that fills up to, well, I don't think it's 100 strictly, but, maybe 70, whatever. It depends on the character. And what it does is it factors in percent chance and it uses that as hard mitigation to getting hit. I'm not necessarily going into it too deeply, but generally speaking, as long as you have luck bar filled out, if an enemy hits you, it will strip out the percentage portion out of the luck bar. So your luck will run out, and it's a good way to know when you're pushing your limits. So you still have cover and flanks and trying to mitigate percentage chance to hit. The percentage chance still exists. The idea is that you sort of have a buffer in the form of your luck bar, and if it's full and you're sort of going to try and roll the hard 6 and risk it hard, the luck will protect you from maybe a shot or two. But if your luck's tapped and you take a direct hit, you're going to take damage. It's interesting. It's novel. It's cool to see a different system. It's graspable. I'm not necessarily saying it's better, but like I said, something a little bit different in what you could probably argue is a pretty well-established genre, and they all follow the same rule set. But yeah, so you'll bounce around an environment, going to different shops and picking up loot and equipping them to your characters. There's this whole hand system, which, I guess it plays into the cowboy playing poker, aces and eights type thing, but you can equip cards, and it's just the top end of the deck. I think it might be 10 through ace, so it's pretty much face cards. But there's enough there so that you can get all poker hands. So if you were to give 4 of a kind or what have you, you might get like a +4 movement speed buff on top of whatever it is that particular card or cards in the hand will give you. So you can create these really powerful, strange buffs, and it leans into that Weird West sort of healing and spellcraft-ish kind of thing. And it's good because it's there, and it does change the game, but it's all still fairly light. You still fall back on the bloody 6-shooter or the double-barrel shotgun, and all of them have novel mechanics as well, like maybe you can ricochet bullets off of buckets and things like that, and it's as an answer to try and get around enemies between hard cover, because the AI is smart enough to know they've got a good position, and you'll end up in a bit of a standoff situation. You're behind hard cover, they're behind hard cover. Who's going to try and break that? And things like ricochets are a good answer. You can do fanning with some revolvers as well, so lower hit chance but multiple shots, shotguns and rifles, and there's a whole reload thing. It's not a full reload, you only have time to get a couple of bullets in. So again, it does also capture that feel of, the 6-shooter relatively being low on shots. So for my part, it actually really captures, I suppose, what it sets out to do. A Wild West turn-based simulator, but again, much more narrative. You could argue it's lighter. It's still indie. It wears its indie roots on its sleeve. And again, I'm a huge XCOM fan, but generally you could call them a bit more of a sandbox. Yeah, you have plates to spin and objectives to push, but you get a lot of tools and building out bases, and the gameplay is broad. And again, we looked at on the main channel, what was it? Chains of Freedom. Another sort of subgenre of the XCOM type games, very linear and kind of on rails. And this sort of is the same, albeit not just a campaign along the lines of Chains of Freedom or Showgunners, but again, taking this vignette, potentially even jumping back and forth in time. And I really like that. You know what? If you've seen things like Buster Scruggs, this Western format with a couple of different little stories all tied together that may or may not have any overlap, it's doing that essentially. However, this came out bloody 10 years before Buster Scruggs, so there's a touchstone. Maybe that's enough for you to go out and check it, because it's on pretty deep sale at the moment, like 90% off. It's a couple of bucks. It's worth checking out and having a look. And again, dipping back in just to pick up B-roll for it, it was an absolute delight. I played this at launch when it came out, and I've chipped away at it over the years as it comes up. Anyway, I don't want to waffle, but Hard West, really cool game, ultra cheap, probably something you missed, especially if you're newer to my channels. Anyway team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.